everyone, and welcome to episode 15 of Piofiore Faded Memories, Nicola's arc. I am WittyMichi, and I am so excited to get started with you guys. So, last time we ended on a very interesting situation. There was a little bit of reveal for our main character's feelings, which was pretty fun. But I'm just wondering what exactly is happening in Nicola's mind. Dante's funeral ended quietly. The sky was getting cloudy with a drizzle as we finished burying his coffin. It was like heaven was crying for Dante. Just a few years ago, the people of Valce mourned the loss of the previous Falzone boss. Nicola. He was now the Falzone's boss. As boss, he handled the arrangements and gave a speech to urge his men on. Nicola is acting the way he used to before, no different from when Dante was alive. But after the funeral ended and the attendees left the graveyard, Nicola froze as if the strings moving him had snapped. He stood there, under the rain. Nicola, we should get going too. You're going to catch a cold like that. My words didn't reach him. His jade eyes were staring blankly at the tombstone. Nicola? After calling his name out a number of times, he finally spoke with quivering lips. His voice was so weak and frail. I held back my tears, hearing his voice so full of sorrow. Yes, I'm here. I'm right here next to you, Nicola. My words resonated in his heart. Nicola lifted his head and looked at me. His voice was shaking. Nicola, please. Please don't. I'll always be by your side. I promise I'll never leave. So please, let's go home together. Amidst the rain, I did my best to express my feelings to his heart and soul. Soon, he slowly began to move. He then grabbed hold of me and buried his face into my shoulder. His body was cold from the rain. I gently cradled his weak shoulders. I prayed in silence that Nicola's soul would be saved. Good. Looks like I've covered the second floor hall. I'd been helping Julia with the cleaning, with how much time I had on my hand. What is this?
Lao Shu は最近おとなしい。 特に目立った動きはないみたい。
ラオシュも大金星をあげたわけだし、あまり焦る必要がないのかもね。
Sensing something from my words, Orla quietly looked away.
ビスコンティは被害が甚大。そろそろだと思う。
相当叩いたからね。正直、ビスコンティよりもラオシュを優先したかったんだけど。売られた喧嘩を買わないわけにもいかないしね。
ビスコンティはニコラにボスを殺された。報復に出るのは当然。
まあ、それもここまでだ。近いうちに最後の仕上げにかかろうかな。
ファルツォーネのニコラの評判はあまり良くない。ファルツォーネを裏切ったこと、作戦だったって信じてない人も多い。ニコラはまんまとカポの座を手にしたって。
言いたいやつには言わせておけばいいさ。他には何かある？
今は街中に死体が溢れてる。いちいち確認するのも手間だけど、俺が調べた範囲ではダンテ・ファルツォーネの死後、構成員殺しの新しい被害者は出てないと思う。
それはいいことだね。公庫の憂いがないに越したことはない。
それからブルローネ死刑に一人行方不明の人間がいる。ロベルト・デ・フェオ。
へえ。
ロベルトはラオ州とつながりがあったみたい。露見を恐れて逃げたのか、それともラオ州に消されたのか、もしくは他の誰かに。
さあどうだろう。彼は随分と失礼な人間だったし、マフィアからは煙たがられていたから無理もないよ。今頃アドリア海の魚の餌にでもなっているかもね。ま、一階の刑事の末路に興味はないけど。
ならいい。
Orlok began to look around the room uncomfortably.
どうしたの、オルロック？
ニコラ、この部屋。
ああ、ここは代々のカポが使っている執務室だよ。今は僕のもの。
I had only let him into the manor a few times before, and even then, only as far as the garden. Perhaps being in here was making him uncomfortable. I'd been helping Julia with the cleaning with how much time I had on my hand. I lived life here not much different from the way it was before. The only difference is that the men are never around and Dante is no longer with us. It had been 2 weeks since Dante's funeral. Ah. I turned around, hearing a familiar voice. It seemed it was coming from Nicola's office. A young man stepped out. Buongiorno, Orlok. Orlok seemed tense. He simply nodded without saying a word. How is Nicola? It was a strange question to ask. But Orlok must have noticed my hesitance and replied to my question.
ニコラは変わった。それが少しかたくさんか、俺にはわからないけど。
Orlok looked at the door to the office with a concerned look on his face.
俺は情報屋だから。必要とされるなら情報を売る。それだけ。それ以上のことは何もしない。
With that, he bowed to signal his departure, then walked away. As he left, I watched his lonely back and felt that odd feeling inside me. Later in the evening, as I was cleaning up, one of the men came into the salon.
やれやれ。このサロンに来るのも久しぶりな気がするな。
Welcome back.
おお、ジョーちゃん。掃除してたのか？
Why, yes, it seems you're all quite busy. I can at least do my best to make the place comfortable when you return.
そいつは嬉しい心遣いだな。うん。屋敷が綺麗だとやっぱり気分がいい。
I'm glad to hear it.
最近寝る暇もなく動き回っていてな。さすがに答えるってもんだ。次の休みにはジョーちゃんが焼いた菓子でも食いながらのんびりしたいよ。
He sunk his tired body into the chair and closed his eyes as if enjoying the old days.
俺はジョーちゃんの観音炉が恋しいよ。ドミニクさんにも食べさせてやりたかったな。
Yes, I wish he was too. I wanted to see him enjoy my baking. I vividly remembered when I heard he was going to be released. Afterward, I was abducted by Nicola from the Falzone Manor. I haven't made any cannoli since then.
よかったらまた今度観音炉作ってくれないか。実のところ俺もジョーちゃんが作ってくれるドルチェのファンだったんだ。
He winked at me with a playful smile on his face. I'm so happy to hear that. I'll make the best cannoli I can.
楽しみだ。
I felt a bit better, seeing his bright smile and hearing his joyful laughter. I couldn't be happier knowing what I did could make others smile.
ね
I jumped at the sudden voice calling out from behind me. Nicola, since when? Instead of replying to me, he stared coldly at the person sitting in front of me.
え、君、こんなところで油を売っている暇はあるのかな？僕たちファルツォーネの人間にとってすべきことはまだ山積みのはずだけど。
ああ、すみません、カポ。すぐ仕事に戻ります。
He quickly bowed and exited the salon in a hurry. Nicola. He just came back a moment ago after working a long time. He even said he hasn't had any time to sleep, so he was just resting for a minute. He wasn't sitting idly.
へえ、遊びじゃないなら何なのかな、そのおしゃべりの内容は。
Well, true, we weren't talking about work, but I tried my best to make an excuse as he looked at me with those cold eyes of his. It's my fault. He just wanted to cheer me up. It was only for a moment. So, please don't be too harsh on him. The more I spoke, the harsher his expression became. Unable to say anything more, I fell silent. I sighed slightly when all of a sudden, Nicola forcefully grabbed my arm. What is this? Without a single word, he simply dragged me out of the salon. Stop, Nicola, let me go. I tried to snap him out of his unusual state as he kept a tight grip on my arm. Nicola didn't even look at me. He kept dragging me along quietly until we reached his office. What is going on with you? I finally snapped from his refusal to talk and questioned him in a strong voice. His grip on me began to weaken. I held my breath and quickly forced my arm away from his hold. Why are you doing this? I looked straight at him. He didn't flinch and quietly locked the door, staring at me with a blank look on his face.
君が言ったんだよ。僕のそばにいるって。
Nicola's words jogged my memory. I recalled what I said at Dante's funeral. Well, yes, I did say that, but that's why I'm still here and haven't returned to the church. I had stood by my words. At least, that's what I thought. Yet, Nicola gave an eerie smile and pulled me into his arms.
何も分かっていないんだね、君は。
No. I was getting a bad feeling about this, especially in this locked room. I instinctively tried to break myself loose, but his arm wasn't letting go at all. Nicola then squeezed me more tightly to stop me from resisting. Stop. Nicola!
君は僕のことが好きなんだよね。だからそばにいてくれるんだよね。
The way he questioned me was making me doubt his sanity. He's right that I love him, but he's starting to scare me.
どうして黙るの？ああ、もしかしてもう嫌いになったとか。
That's not.
いいよ、見損なったならそれで。君が僕を嫌っていても結果は同じだ。
He forcefully pulled down my blouse collar, exposing my skin to the cold air. Unable to speak through shaking lips, I stood frozen as he whispered into my ear.
君は約束した。僕のそばにいるって。だからその責任を取ってもらう。誓いには重みがあるんだって知っているよね。
Please. Stop. His moist lips touched my exposed skin, and he slowly ran them down the mark on my chest. I tried my best to push him back, but to no avail.
僕にはもう君しか。
Nicola? His eyes were filling with tears. He was looking at me with a sense of suffering in his eyes. If I refuse him now, his mind is going to break. He wouldn't smile at me like he did before. Suddenly, my strength left my arms and legs.
諦めたの。賢いね。君がちゃんといい子にしてくれたら、僕も優しくしてあげられる。
My body shook, seeing his cold eyes. But I needed to accept him. I needed to accept his despair and sorrow in order to heal him. I want to protect him. I slowly and carefully reached my hands out, and then he slowly wrapped his arms around my back. Another day passed without returning to the church. I didn't regret accepting Nicola back then, but I still didn't know if it was the right thing to do. That should do it. Now that I'm done cleaning the garden, I decided to head back to the salon. It seemed like Nicola and the family were all gathered together for some kind of meeting.
報告ありがとう。レオが持ってきた情報を踏まえて考えると、ラオ州に仕掛けるのは2日後、いや、3日後がいいかな。
はい。中2日あれば万全の状態に整えられると思います。
俺も賛成だ。今回は大物狙いだからな。慎重に準備する必要がある。
I interrupted their meeting. Would anyone like something to drink? Nicola looked at me and smiled gently.
いいよ。それより君も座って。いい知らせがあるんだ。
I wasn't sure what it was about, but I followed Nicola's beckoning hand and sat next to him.
きっと喜ぶと思うよ。僕たちの敵はもうほとんどいなくなったんだから。
Enemies? You mean the Falzone families?
うん。ラオ州はまだ少し残っているけど、ヴィスコンティはもう終わり。
I could deduce something important was being discussed among them. But hearing him say that the Visconti were all gone was still shocking. It feels like just yesterday. Despite my short stay there, I did get along with a number of them.
ヴィスコンティはもともとボスに大きく依存していた組織だ。ギルバートさえ死ねばあとは烏合の衆。崩れ落ちるのは早かったね。
Leo nodded in agreement with Nicola.
俺も何度かやり合いましたけど、全然怖い相手じゃなかったです。統率も取れてないし。
Feeling conflicting emotions, I asked a question to Nicola. What's going to happen to Greta?
ヴィスコンティが亡くなった以上、しばらくは荒れると思うよ。ファルツォーネへの反感もあるだろうしね。けど、それも一時のことだ。ブルローネは昔のようにファルツォーネが滑る街になる。
I see.
はい。これからは平和になるだけです。ニコラさんを狙っていた奴らはみんな死にましたし。
敵組織の中でも忠誠心の薄い連中はさっさとこの町を捨てたようだしな。
It seemed they were telling me this to help ease my worries. I'm happy there isn't anyone left to go after Nicola, but I glanced over to my side. Nicola was sitting there like nothing had changed. I didn't feel good at all. Night arrived. I changed into my sleepwear and slid into bed when I already know who it was who knocked on the door. I wasn't sure if I should go and open the door to let him in. Can I trust you? The knocking continued in a hurry. I didn't have much time to think. I stood in front of the door, closed my eyes, and took a deep breath. I slowly turned the doorknob. The person in front of me smiled gently.
ボナセーラ。君の部屋に入れてくれる？
Nicola was smiling, but his eyes said otherwise. I quietly let Nicola into my room. I chose to accept all that he does. I can't change things now. At this point, I doubt he would let me leave anyway. And I don't want to hurt Nicola anymore. He came inside and closed the door. As usual, he locked the door behind him. The day we were to attack the Lao Shu arrived. Everyone had left the manor already. I cleaned the hallway in a daze. I couldn't seem to concentrate. Phew. How many times have I sighed already? The entrance was getting a bit noisy. Is he back? I hurriedly put the cleaning tools away and went down the salon. Nicola was nowhere to be found. According to Leo, he seemed to go straight into his office upon arrival. Hearing that, my shoulders dropped. But I quickly regained my composure and head to his office. Welcome back, Nicola. Seeing me jump into his room without knocking, his eyes narrowed. Then he gave a gentle smile.
Ah, tadaima.
I am glad you've returned safely.
今ちょうど君に会いに行こうって思っていたところだったんだよ。
I smiled with relief. Nicola seemed happier than usual. If the siege on the Lao Shu was successful, Nicola's revenge should be over.
こちらにはほとんど被害は出なかった。怪我人が数人ってところかな。
I see.
けど、ヤンには逃げられた。
Yang's escape meant that Nicola's revenge wasn't over yet. Anxiety washed over me. But Nicola didn't seem fazed at all. He was still smiling quite pleasantly.
君にも見せてあげたかったな。今日はネズミの巣を丸ごときれいに燃やしてあげたんだ。
Huh?
港も街道もすべて封鎖した。ブルローネを出る街道は一つ。周りは深い森だ。狼も出る。どうせ近いうちにあぶり出されるよ。それまでせいぜい逃げ回ればいい。
I sensed the shadow of madness in Nicola, seeing his smile warp eerily. Burning the rat's nest? If I'm not mistaken, the Lao Shu's headquarters was in the middle of Veleno. If he really set fire to their headquarters, what happened to Veleno? Just imagining what may have happened made me squirm.
どうしたの？
Nicola tilted his head in confusion. I forced myself to speak. Seeing you talk so happily about killing others, it makes me sad.
そんな僕は嫌い。
Nicola. He closed his eyes in concern, then embraced me as if pleading for help.
違うんだ。僕だって殺したくて殺したわけじゃない。ラオシュがダンテを殺したからだよ。僕たちはカポを失った。そうしなきゃダンテだってきっと報われない。ラオシュが悪いんだよ。証拠なんて残すから。僕だって証拠もなしにこんなことはしない。
Nicola's words triggered something in my mind. It bothered me for a long while, but only a single bullet was used to prove that Dante was killed by the Lao Shu. Was that really enough to call proof? Yes, the Lao Shu used weapons with that type of bullet, but would they have used their usual weapons in assassinations that needed to be covered up? I wonder, Did the Lao Shu really kill Dante? The thoughts rolled around my mind.
君は僕のそばにいる。これからも離れないでいてくれる。
Nicola asked me sweetly. I stopped thinking. I gently wrapped my arm around Nicola's back. Yes, I'll always be with you. If I let my hands go, I was the only one who got to see the family boss showing his weakness. I need to support him. Nicola is suffering more than anyone else. A few days passed. I was living a pretty calm life. But there were some changes as well. With the warring nearly over, the manor settled back to its usual state. But it wasn't as lively as before. Most who used to come every so often now didn't visit at all. I awoke slowly and looked around my empty room. Evening already? Nicola begged for me to have a nap with him. I suppose I slept a bit too well. Maybe it's because I haven't been getting much sleep recently. Did Nicola step outside? I got myself up from bed, thinking that I should have Nicola wake me up next time. I was sure dinner was already being prepared in the kitchen. I hurriedly put myself together and reached to the doorknob to step outside. Suddenly, the door opened, and in front of me was... Nicola.
ああ、目が覚めた。ごめんね。ちょっと電話が来て外していたんだ。
Nicola steps in and pushed me back into the room. Wait a minute, Nicola? It's almost dinner. I have to go and help Julia.
いいんだよ。君はそんなことしなくて。むしろ今までがおかしかったんだ。君はメイドとして雇われているわけじゃないんだからね。
Well, that's true, but I feel guilty not doing anything at all. I figured I could show my thanks by at least helping just a little.
じゃあ、ジュリアの手伝いじゃなくて、僕の手伝いをしてよ。
Help you?
そう。この屋敷の主は僕なんだから。君には僕の言うことを聞く義務がある。そうだよね。
Well, it was very assertive of him to say so. It's not that I didn't want to help him, but I'd never been stopped from helping out before. Nicola buried his face in my shoulder.
キッチンには行かないで。ここにいて。お願い。
Is there something the matter? Something seemed terribly wrong. I had to ask him what was going on.
ヤンが死んだよ。これでラオシュも終わり。僕の手で直接殺せなかったのは残念だけど、死体は屋敷まで運ぶように指示した。これでようやく終わる。この町は平和になる。
Yes, I'm sure. I slowly ran my fingers through his hair. The feeling was no different from before. Nicola should be able to rest now. Nicola's revenge has ended. I felt the tension in me dissipate. Please. I prayed quietly inside my heart. It may take some time, but he will get back to his normal self. Little did I know that things were worse than I thought. That he was already broken beyond repair.
Ah, つまらない幕引きだ。終止符はあっけなく打たれてしまった。ブルローネの一時代がこうも簡単に終わってしまうとは。事実は小説よりもきなり？いや、筋書き通りに運んだ現実など、三流作家の物語より退屈だ。
崩れ落ちた夢の瓦礫に埋もれて目を閉じるなすすべなど共についえた思いの牢獄で白帯よどんだ水に身も心も音もなくただ浸されてゆく I wonder where I lost I wonder where I lost どこで I wonder why I lost
Well, that was definitely a tragic ending. If you would like to see the good ending, go ahead and check out our other videos. We also have the good ending. They're available for you to see. So don't feel sad and having those mixed feelings. Go check out those episodes and put that smile on your face. But anyways, thank you so much for going through this journey with me. I really appreciate it. Comment below. Let me know what you think about this tragic ending and you know, how you're feeling, and we can talk about it. I would love to talk about it with you. But I am really happy to have gone through this with you. So don't forget to hit that like button and also that subscribe button. I'm going to read the rest of this, and I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day. A few months had passed since Nicola became the Falzone's boss. All opposing factions were gone. The Falzone family held the reins to the entire town of Berlone. I was sleeping in my soft bed, spending my time between the rift of reality and dreams. As usual, I carried on my daily life at the Falzone Manor. But it's quite different from before now. I felt myself being lifted up. I slowly awakened from my dreamy state. I also felt cold fingers covering my eyes. When did he return? Nicola?
そうだよ。ただいま。
Where were you all this time? I was waiting for you for so long.
ごめんね。寂しかった？
A little?
そう？ちょっとならもう少し遅くなってもよかったかな。
Oh, stop it already.
ごめんごめん。僕がいない間、いい子にしていた？
Why, yes, I read books and stayed in my room just like you told me to.
そう、ならよかった。今日は君のために新しいドレスを買ったんだ。明日には届くと思うよ。
Again? My closet is getting so full from everything you've bought me.
だって君に似合いそうだったんだ。淡いペールグリーンのシフォン生地でふわりと裾が広がっていて。
Unbelievable. I sighed and let out a giggle. He changed the moment Yang died. Nicola began to detest seeing me step outside the manor. He then laid out rules that prevented anyone in the family from speaking with me. Next, he barred Julia and the maids away from me. Soon, he prohibited me from even leaving my room. Days passed inside my room. All I did was await his return. To make up for my lack of freedom, he brought me the most beautiful dresses and clothes. In fact, the dress I was wearing now had only been purchased yesterday, just for me.
ダメだった？
Of course I do. Your gifts are always wonderful. I really am happy with them. But you don't need to buy so much. It's only going to worry me.
大丈夫だよ。その分しっかり稼いでいるんだから。
I would actually rather have him near me than receive all these gifts. I hesitated for a moment before asking him my usual question. Nicola, I'd like to step outside for once. I haven't seen anyone at the church for a while now.
そうだね。もう少しブルローネが安全になるまでは我慢してほしいな。
Yes, I understand. The same reply came from Nicola. No matter how many times I asked, it never changed. I already understand. He had no intention of letting me out. It didn't matter how safe Bologna was, even with the Visconti and Lao Shu gone. But if this can save his soul, then I'd happily accept his lies. His words were sweet and tender amid this darkness-shrouded world of mine.
君が一人で退屈しないように、僕はできるだけ君のそばにいるよ。君のことは僕が守ってあげる。誰にも傷つけさせない。
Thank you. It's dangerous outside after all. I was a bird in a cage. Nicola's precious little bird.
ねえ、
What is it, Nicola?
僕は君を失ったら。
Don't worry. I'll always be beside you. Nicola gently placed me onto my bed. He was sweet and gentle with me as long as I was quiet and obedient. I was in an unlocked bird cage. I would always be waiting for his return.